Amber had worked the late shift at Linden Grill for almost 3 years. She'd seen it all: rowdy regulars, demanding couples, lonely diners scrolling their phones through steak and mashed potatoes. But that night felt different. A man in a charcoal gray hoodie walked in just after 9:30 p.m., head down, sunglasses on. Odd for a cloudy evening. He didn't say much, just, steak. Medium rare. Water, no ice. Amber noted the strange energy. Polite, but intense. Something in the way he scanned the room, then kept his back to the wall. She didn't recognize him. No one did. The cook, Manny, peeked out. That guy looks familiar. Kinda like that tech guy, what's his name? The one who disappeared. Amber shrugged it off. Probably a traveler or a paranoid corporate dude hiding from the world. Still, she couldn't shake the feeling. His hands were clean but calloused. His watch was expensive but worn. And when he spoke, it wasn't just quiet, it was controlled. Too controlled. While pouring his water, she noticed something else: a thin, folded paper under his plate. Blank at first glance, but when she flipped it slightly, faint words appeared, scribbled hastily. It was hers. The note she had written 2 weeks ago but never gave to the regional manager. A note that could cost someone their job. Or save someone else's. She stared at it for a second, heart skipping. How did he get that? Amber's pulse raced. She made a choice. She slipped a new note beneath his fresh steak, covered slightly by the bread roll. Then walked away without a word. He unfolded it slowly. And froze. The man didn't move for a long moment. His fork hovered above the steak, but his eyes locked on the crumpled slip of paper Amber had quietly placed beside his plate. The note was simple. 10 words: if you are who I think you are, don't speak. His jaw tightened. Slowly, deliberately, he set the fork down. Then the knife. Then leaned back in the booth, scanning the restaurant again, but this time, differently. Like someone trying to assess whether the room was bugged. Or trapped. Amber's heart pounded as she stood behind the counter, pretending to polish a glass. But she was watching him. Every twitch. Every breath. He folded the note once, then again, then tucked it into his palm like a magician vanishing a coin. But he didn't eat. Didn't speak. Just waited. A few minutes later, he took out a pen and scratched something quickly onto a napkin. When Amber brought the ketchup bottle he hadn't asked for, he slid it toward her beneath his fingertips, smooth, controlled, deliberate. She pocketed it in one motion and kept walking. Inside, written in tight, efficient script, "Who else knows?" That was it. No name. No greeting. Just that chilling question. Amber nearly dropped the ketchup on someone's burger. Her hands shook. She stepped into the kitchen. "Manny, I need to run to the stockroom," she said, barely above a whisper. "You good?" he asked, raising an eyebrow. "Yeah, just tired," she lied. In the walk-in cooler, she finally let herself breathe. She pulled out the napkin again and read the words 3 more times. Who else knows? She wasn't sure how to answer. Because honestly, she wasn't even sure what she knew. Amber stepped out of the cooler, adrenaline still pulsing through her veins. The napkin felt like it weighed 100 pounds in her apron pocket. She hadn't meant to get involved. Not like this. The original note, that first one she'd written 2 weeks ago, was never supposed to resurface. It was just a warning, written in frustration, then forgotten in the chaos of the lunch rush. Yet somehow, this man, this stranger, had it. And now he was asking questions. Table 9 remained still. The man hadn't touched the steak. He just sat there, gaze sweeping the room every few minutes like a sentry. Calm. Composed. Watching. Amber made her way over again, this time holding a fresh carafe of water. She leaned in just enough to pour, her voice low but steady. "Bathrooms to the left. Behind the kitchen," she said softly. He didn't respond. Didn't nod. But 3 minutes later, he got up and walked there. Amber counted to 10, then followed through the staff hallway, pretending to carry cleaning supplies. She slipped into the dry storage room next to the restroom and waited. A quiet knock. She opened the door just a crack. His eyes met hers. She stepped back. He came inside, closed the door. It was barely bigger than a closet, shelves of canned soup and baking powder surrounded them. "I need you to explain," she said. "You left that note in a manager's folder," he said calmly. "You thought no one saw." "I did." Amber blinked. "So, what are you? An auditor? A lawyer?" He hesitated, then finally said, "I'm the owner." She felt her throat go dry. She laughed, but it was hollow, almost bitter. "No way. The owner lives in New York. Some guy named Ellis Crane." He pulled out a card. No title. Just a name. Ellis J. Crane. "I don't live in New York," he said. "That's where the company is registered. But this place? This exact restaurant? It's where I started. I check in personally. Quietly." Amber's mind spun. She felt sick. "And the note," he added. "You accused your general manager of stealing inventory, paying cash to unclocked workers, and falsifying inspections." She looked down. It wasn't an accusation. It was the truth. Ellis nodded slowly. "Then why didn't you submit it?" Amber swallowed. "Because people who speak up don't always get protected. They get replaced." His eyes studied her. Then he said something that made her stomach drop, "You're not the only one who left a note." Amber stood frozen in the narrow storage room, her back against a shelf of vinegar jugs and plastic wrap, staring at the man who was supposedly her boss's boss. "You're not the only one who left a note," Ellis had just said. "What do you mean?" she asked cautiously. He reached into his inner jacket pocket and pulled out a small, black notebook, creased, weathered, and held together by a rubber band. He flipped through it with practiced fingers, then stopped and held up a torn scrap of receipt paper. The handwriting wasn't hers. But the message was chillingly familiar: "He's cooking numbers. Check March and April. I can't prove it, but it's there." A.J. Amber's chest tightened. A.J. was Alicia James, an assistant manager who had quietly quit 6 months ago. No notice, no goodbye. Just vanished. "She said she was moving to care for her mom," Amber muttered. Ellis shook his head. "She reached out to corporate through the confidential channel. 2 days later, your general manager found out about it. 2 days after that, she was gone." Amber leaned against the shelf. "So you've known all this time?" "No," he said. "I only found out a week ago. Someone on the board flagged a discrepancy at this location. They passed it off as clerical error, but I don't like patterns." He took a breath. "So I came down. Quietly. Ordered a steak. Watched the team. Saw who was nervous, who wasn't. You stood out, not because you were scared, but because you were watching back." Amber's fingers curled around the edge of the shelf. "And now what? You'll investigate quietly and let him cover his tracks? Or send a warning so he can lawyer up before it hits the fan?" Ellis's face hardened slightly. "I didn't come here to play games," he said. "I came here to end them." Amber exhaled sharply. There was something real behind his eyes, tired, but clear. This wasn't corporate theater. This was personal. "You know he's got people on the inside," she said quietly. "Inventory's always clean. Payroll logs match. But none of it's real. I've seen the back entries. I've watched cash go in and never show up on record. Ellis raised an eyebrow. You have proof? Amber hesitated. Then nodded. I took photos. Kept backups on a flash drive. Not at home. Somewhere safe. For the first time since he sat down, Ellis smiled. It wasn't wide. It wasn't warm. But it was the kind of smile a chess player gives when they see the endgame. Good, he said. Because if what you're saying is true, you and I are going to burn this entire thing to the ground. Then he stepped back. We'll talk again. But not here. And not on your phone. Don't mention this to anyone. He paused at the door, hand on the knob. One more thing, he added. If your manager suspects you're onto him, don't stay late. Don't be alone with him. Got it? Amber nodded slowly, suddenly aware of how dry her throat had become. Ellis was gone the next second, slipping out into the hallway like a ghost. Amber stood there in the dark, surrounded by shelves and cold silence. She had started the shift thinking it was just another night. Now, she was part of a storm that hadn't even started yet. Amber finished her shift in a daze, pouring coffee, taking orders, faking smiles, all while her thoughts screamed louder than the clattering plates. Ellis Crane had come in quietly, left quieter, and flipped her world upside down. She didn't even remember clocking out. Her legs just carried her down the street, past the laundromat, past the boarded-up bookstore, and into the little corner deli with the dusty old vending machine at the back. Behind that machine, wedged between the baseboard and a forgotten utility panel, was her insurance policy. She crouched, slipped her hand into the gap, and retrieved a thin black flash drive, sealed in a ziplock and duct tape. It was cold from the wall. Amber stood, paid for a bottled tea she didn't want, and walked straight home. Her studio apartment was barely bigger than the walk-in cooler she'd hidden in earlier, but it felt safer, at least for now. She booted up her ancient laptop, plugged in the drive, and watched the screen flicker to life. Inside the folder marked, Tips Training, she had dozens of time-stamped images, fake inventory receipts with the same signatures but different handwriting, screenshots of timecards edited after hours, a blurry video of her general manager handing off a thick envelope to someone in a black car that never parked long. Amber stared at the files, her heartbeat steady now. Cold. Focused. She copied everything onto a new drive, then encrypted it and backed it up to cloud storage under a dummy email she'd made months ago. She'd planned to go to HR before, but that would have been suicide. HR didn't protect people like her. HR protected the brand. But now she had Ellis Crane. Or at least, she hoped she did. Just as she was about to shut her laptop, a text lit up her phone. Unknown number, meet me tomorrow, 10 a.m. East Park Bench 3. No phones. She stared at it, fingers frozen above the screen. She hadn't given him her number. Not even her last name. But she knew it was him. The next morning, she left her phone at home and walked into the park with the flash drive in her boot and nerves wrapped around her spine like barbed wire. Bench 3 sat under a rusted iron lamp post, cracked and weathered. He was already there. Same hoodie. Different glasses. Reading a newspaper like it was 1954. Without looking at her, he said, "Sit." Slowly. She did. He folded the paper, turned to her with eyes sharp as broken glass. Listen carefully. Your manager is under investigation by more than just corporate now. Someone tipped off the city auditor last month. Amber blinked. You. Ellis shook his head. Wasn't me. But someone knew. We're not the only ones circling this mess. He leaned forward. If you give me that flash drive, you'll be safe. I'll make sure of it. But once this really starts, there's no going back. Your name will come out eventually. Amber exhaled slowly. And if I say no? He didn't flinch. Then you put it back in the vending machine, forget everything, and keep pretending this place is just broken because of bad luck. Like everyone else. She reached into her boot. Pulled out the drive. Stared at it for a long second. Then placed it in his hand. Ellis took the flash drive with the kind of precision you'd expect from someone trained to handle evidence. Not a word. Not a glance. He just slipped it into the lining of his jacket like he'd done it 1,000 times before. Amber, still seated on the cold park bench, watched his movements closely. She wasn't sure if she'd just handed him salvation or painted a target on her own back. "What now?" she asked. He folded the newspaper neatly across his lap. "Now you go to work like it's just another Thursday. You say nothing. You notice everything." Amber narrowed her eyes. "And what are you doing?" Ellis looked at her fully for the first time since they'd Saturday. "I'm building a list." "A list of what?" He didn't answer directly. Instead, he pulled out his phone, flipped it over to show her a gallery of faces. "Employee ID photos. Dozens of them. People like you," he said. "People who saw too much and left too quietly." Amber scrolled. She recognized 5 immediately: past cooks, waitresses, assistant managers. Most had resigned under personal reasons. Some had just stopped showing up. None ever came back. All of them reported something, Ellis said. And every single one was silenced. Relocated. Blacklisted. A few. I can't even find contact info. Amber looked up. "You think someone's scrubbing them?" "I know someone is," he said. "And they're doing it with help. Which means this goes higher than your general manager." Amber's stomach tightened. She'd thought the scam was small-scale, stolen food, cooked numbers, under-the-table labor. But this? This was sounding bigger. Smarter. Coordinated. Ellis glanced around the park before lowering his voice again. "There's a leak inside corporate. Someone feeding them names. I've traced 3 flagged whistleblower complaints. Every one of them was intercepted before it reached our legal team." Amber felt sick. "So this whole company, not the whole thing," he cut in. "But enough of it's rotten to make a cover-up easy. The question isn't who's involved." He looked at her sharply. "It's who benefits most if you disappear." The words hit her like a slap. "You think they'd?" "I think if they feel cornered, they'll do whatever it takes to keep this quiet." Silence fell between them. The wind rustled the trees overhead. Somewhere, a dog barked. Ellis stood. "I have everything I need from you. For now. But I won't be the only one asking questions soon. So here's what you're going to do." Amber stood too, tense, alert. "You're going to stay visible," Ellis said. "You're going to show up on time, work your shift, talk to coworkers. But no heroics. No sudden moves. If they think you're scared, you're a target. If they think you're confident, you're a threat." He paused. "Be neither. Be nothing." Amber nodded slowly. He handed her a small card with no name, just a number and a single word printed on it: "Stay, if something changes, call. Otherwise, wait." He walked away without another word. Amber stood there for a long moment, the card pressed between her fingers, the weight of it heavier than anything she'd ever carried. Because now, she wasn't just a witness. She was a fuse. And someone out there was already holding the match. Amber returned to Linden Grill with a calm mask and a storm in her chest. She moved like nothing had changed, wiped down tables, took orders, made eye contact, smiled when necessary. But her mind never stopped scanning, calculating. She could feel it in the air, something had shifted. The general manager, Brian Slate, was in early that day. Too early. He wasn't usually around until noon, but now he was already pacing the office behind the counter before the breakfast shift even started. And he wasn't alone. A man in a slate suit stood beside him. Short hair, wireframe glasses, a leather folder under one arm. He didn't speak much, but he didn't have to. His presence screamed, internal affairs, or something like it. Amber stayed clear. Watched from a distance. At around 10:20, Slate walked out of the office with a smile that didn't touch his eyes. His usual cocky swagger was dialed up to 10. He clapped a hand on one of the line cook's shoulders. "Health inspections next week, folks. Let's clean this place like it's prom night." Amber knew what that meant, someone had tipped them off. Slate was covering tracks. She made her way to the back to grab coffee filters and found herself face to face with Tara, the hostess, wide-eyed, visibly shaken. "You okay?" Amber asked. Tara nodded too quickly. "Yeah. Just, weird morning. Slate asked me if I'd heard anything unusual. Said corporate's reviewing things and wants to make sure we're all on the same page." Amber's blood chilled. "They ask about me?" Tara hesitated. Then nodded. "They asked about who hangs out with you on breaks. Said someone saw you meeting someone in the park." Amber felt her stomach knot. They knew. Or at least, they suspected. That night, she skipped her usual walk home and doubled back twice to make sure no one was following her. At her apartment, she pulled the curtains tight and used a burner laptop to send one message to the number Ellis gave her. Message sent, "They've started cleaning. Someone saw me in the park. He's asking questions." No reply. 4 hours. Then finally, a single message, "It's begun. Stay offline. You'll be contacted in 48 hours. Trust no one." Amber locked her doors, sat in silence, and listened to every creak in the hallway outside. Because Ellis had warned her. And now she was sure of it, they knew. Amber barely slept. She kept her shoes on, phone off, and a kitchen knife tucked beneath the throw blanket on her couch. She tried to convince herself she was being paranoid, but after the message from Ellis and the way Slate had looked at her that morning, paranoia felt more like survival. The next day at work was quieter than usual. Too quiet. Half the team was suddenly missing, no call, no shift swaps. Just gone. Tara didn't show up. Neither did the dishwasher, Luis. Amber knew both of them had seen too much, or at least heard whispers. She tried calling Tara's number on the breakroom landline. Disconnected. By noon, Slate was walking the floor like a man who owned the world. He grinned at guests, made loud jokes with the servers, but behind the act, his eyes were hunting. Scanning. Watching her. When she returned from delivering a sandwich to table 3, Slate was suddenly standing behind the prep counter. Too close. "Amber," he said casually, "got a minute?" She stiffened. "I'm mid-shift." He smiled. "Won't take long. Just need your help with some end-of-week reports. You've been around long enough to know where everything is, right?" Every alarm in her body screamed at once. He never asked for help with reports. Ever. He barely knew how to open Excel. Still, she forced a nod. "Sure." He led her into the back office. The door clicked shut behind her. The lights buzzed faintly. A half-empty coffee cup sat beside a thick folder on the desk. No computer on. No report in sight. He motioned to the chair. She didn't sit. "Amber," he began, smiling like a man trying not to bare his teeth, "you've been working here what, 2, 3 years?" 3, she said quietly. "Loyal. Consistent. We like that." He stepped around the desk slowly. "But lately, there've been concerns." Amber said nothing. "Strange rumors," he continued. "Things about falsified logs, missing inventory. Claims that don't match our numbers." He leaned in slightly. "Now, I know you wouldn't be involved in anything like that. You're smarter than that. But if you happen to hear something, say, off the record, this is your chance to come clean. Before corporate starts pulling logs and footage. Amber met his gaze, steady and unreadable. I don't know anything about that. Slate nodded slowly. See, I think you do. And I think you've been talking to the wrong people. People who don't care what happens to you once their job is done. Amber's heart pounded. She stayed still. Because if you've passed something on, files, photos, whatever, you better hope it was worth it. People disappear in this industry all the time. Papers get shredded. Cameras malfunction. His voice dropped. And trust me. HR can make someone vanish faster than you think. There it was. The threat, finally spoken. But Amber didn't flinch. Instead, she leaned forward just an inch and said quietly, then I hope you've got good lawyers. Because you're going to need them. Slate's smile faltered for the first time. Before he could respond, the office door opened sharply. A man in a navy blazer stepped inside. Brian Slate, the man said, holding up a badge. Corporate compliance. You'll need to come with me. Slate turned pale. Amber blinked. Behind the compliance officer, another man stepped in, taller, in jeans and a plain black shirt. It was Ellis. He didn't speak to Slate. Didn't look at Amber. Just nodded once. The trap had already been set. The tension in the office was suffocating. Brian Slate stood frozen, eyes darting between the corporate compliance officer and Ellis. The smug confidence he usually carried was gone, replaced by a flicker of panic. Brian Slate, you're under investigation for fraud, falsifying records, and misconduct, the compliance officer said firmly. You have the right to remain silent. Amber watched silently, heart pounding. After months of fear, secrecy, and danger, it was finally happening. Ellis turned to her. You did the right thing, he said quietly. Not many have the courage. Amber shook her head. I just wanted to work without fear. Ellis smiled, a rare softness crossing his features. This isn't just about one restaurant. It's about creating a culture where people don't have to be afraid. The officers began gathering evidence and escorting Slate out. Staff and customers started to notice, whispers spreading through the restaurant like wildfire. Amber returned to the dining room, the weight on her shoulders feeling lighter somehow. Tara and Luis came back the next day, no explanations given, but relief was clear in their eyes. The atmosphere shifted from tense to hopeful. Over the following weeks, Ellis remained involved behind the scenes, ensuring the investigation was thorough and fair. Changes started rolling out, better oversight, transparent policies, anonymous reporting systems. Amber was offered a promotion, head of staff integrity, a position she accepted with cautious optimism. One afternoon, Ellis stopped by again, this time without the hoodie or sunglasses. Thank you, he said simply. For trusting me. Amber smiled. Don't thank me yet, she replied. We still have a lot of work to do. He laughed. But this time, she said, I'm not afraid.